Okay, so I want to apologize in advance about the quality of this video and the sound quality. We're just having a rough go over here. Can't explain it, but we are live. My other computer is possessed. None of my sound stuff is working, but we are going to get this. Oh man, this camera. God bless. Guys, oh jeez. Okay, let me try something real quick, guys. I am so sorry. Oh man, okay. Can you hear me okay, Julie? Does the sound okay at least? I know it's going to look rough and I'm really sorry, but does it at least sound okay? Oh my gosh. Listen, y'all, I'm going to scream. Okay, so I am working off my MacBook and it's got a terrible camera and it's got not the best sound in the world. So I'm sorry. Even my headphones that I already had aren't working. So we're just going to run with it. So I don't know what's going on with the other computer. It just kept anytime I would try to stream, it would disconnect. And now I'm back to not using anything on my computer. It's connected fine. I don't get it. I think my computer is going to go be with Jesus, and this is a newish computer, and I'm mad about it. But it's cool. We're chilling. It's fine. So we're talking about a lot of stuff today. We're going to be talking about the eclipse. We're going to be talking about renewed Russian aggression. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things. They've built the altar for the heifers that we've already talked about. The Temple Institute has said that they might have already sacrificed them anytime between a couple of days ago and Passover. And we need to understand, guys, that we are at the end. We are no longer just, dress rehearsing. I think that we're getting really, really close. My wife and I had a whole conversation about, how even like the air feels different. You know what I mean? And you're walking around and the world just feels different. Like it feels like we're on the edge and someone is just waiting to push it over the edge, right? So, wow. Sorry for all the mix-up. Sorry we're 30 minutes late, 35 minutes late. Wow. But this has literally just been me running around trying to get this stuff fixed. I'm supposed to use this. This isn't going to work, so I'm just going to move that out of the frame. I'm so sorry in advance. I know I'm going to get comments about the video quality and the sound quality, but it's been like a week and some change of just nonsense. So bear with me. I'm so glad to see you guys. I've missed you and I love you. And I'm so excited to hang out with you this evening. I hope you are with me as well. So we are going to be talking about a couple of things. Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about, the heifer altar, the eclipse. We're going to see some renewed Russian aggression. And it's getting to a point, guys, where again, this is kind of coming to a head. It's no longer this, poly crisis. It feels like it's all starting to kind of converge and converge and converge and converge, right? And so we see what's happening, and there are a lot of people who try to fearmonger. We know in the U.S. that it's an election year, and a lot of times what happens is they'll try to manufacture a crisis to get what they want in terms of political power. And unfortunately for them, our God knows what's going to happen because he wrote the book and he speaks and it happens. So, oh man, okay, so let's just get right into it. And guys, it's been a minute since we've done a prophecy update. So if you're new and you have not, if you've not been here in a while or you haven't been here at all, remember our prophecy updates are going to by nature be a little all over the place. And we are going to, we're going to talk about a lot of things, and that's okay. Terry, we're working on it, man. more on that in a little bit. Okay, so we're seeing the Middle East kind of descend into chaos. That's not super shocking considering everything. Oh my gosh. And y'all, I'm using my computer in front of me for Telegram. That's down again, and that's okay. So we're just going to get out and hold. Oh, we're good now. Okay. Here's something weird. Did you guys see, like several days ago, there was this 10-foot tall metal monolith that appeared in Wales? It's kind of like a Georgia Guidestone type. I don't know what you really want to call it. I mean, it's not really like a monument, but it is Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not used to doing on this setup at all. But it's kind of like a Georgia Guidestone type deal where they're erecting these things and they try to cause like panic or whatever. And we know it's just a bunch of global elitists that are trying to depopulate the earth. It's a fancy word for Satanist. And so we're seeing like a bunch of weird stuff start to happen. If you guys didn't know, there was also a big deal with Boeing where they had a whistleblower that was basically coming out and saying, look, a lot of these planes aren't safe. A lot of them are falling apart, damaged parts, that kind of thing. And now that guy's mysteriously ended up dead. Go figure. Um, there was a lot of stuff happening with Russia and Ukraine with renewed missile strikes and that kind of thing. We're looking at Hezbollah trying to pin more of their nonsense on Israeli aggression. Here's something, guys, from not at all a Satanist agency or NASA. You guys like that one? I'm sure Bro Tooch would like that. We're looking at a double solar flare, and that apparently is happening right before the solar eclipse, so that's exciting. We are looking at a lot more missiles going into Ukraine for the first time in months. They're crashing around, the Kiev region. They're trying to like move it around and confuse them. There's a lot of misdirection going on there, guys. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Both governments awful, but pray for the people for sure. Ben, we're going to see the double comet. That's a lot of weird stuff happening there. So we're watching that these missiles are being launched from Belgorod towards Kharkiv. We're looking at a lot of these missiles re-entering. So we're wondering almost if we're going to be witnessing finally after almost, I guess 2 years of conflict. Now we're wondering if we're actually going to see the Russians circle Kyiv and actually end the conflict. We'll see. There's a lot going on, and the problem is that a lot of it is misdirection. And you're going to see, I think, a lot of this stuff kind of ramp up as we get closer to the elections, stateside anyway. We're going to watch a lot of this stuff kind of spiral out of control. I'm personally of the mind, and I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat, as you can see, just my receding hairline, that we're going to see a lot of maybe some illness going around. We're going to be seeing a lot of wars, rumors of wars. There's going to be a lot of rhetoric trying to rile people up. There's going to be a lot of people trying to kind of fearmonger. And the good thing is, guys, that if we're in Christ, we're heaven bound, we're out of here soon. That's why our makeshift thumbnail, because the other thing is I couldn't get my thumbnail to load in here, is we're out of here soon. Our flight's leaving soon. But we need to make sure that we're spending time sharing the gospel of Christ with the lost so that we can have more people on that plane. More on that in a little bit. So we're looking at a lot of Russian activity. We're looking at a lot of, here's one. In China, guys, there's this video that got released by the Chinese military where it's like a bunch of like robot dogs, like thousands of robot dogs, and they're doing push-ups, and it's pretty weird looking. But the point is that China is going into, we're looking at this push into artificial intelligence, into robotics. Pete Garcia did a great video last year on horde technology with brother Brett Gillette. I think I'm not butchering that. And so we're seeing that shift. We're seeing a lot of that. And when we look at like in Revelation, for example, where the false prophet is going around and there's images and likenesses of the beast. And hey, what's up, Matthew? Good to see you, man. When we see that, again, we're seeing this push into artificial intelligence, technology, that kind of thing. Think of like when we see in Revelation, the image of the beast and giving it likeness, and giving this appearance of all-knowing omnipotence. This kind of thing is a gradual kind of shift into that mindset. We need to understand, guys, that this stuff is normal in terms of we can expect this to happen, right? If we're in the Word, if we know if we know the end of the book. So we're going to see a lot more shifting into this robotic, artificial, digital warfare, because that's kind of what the Bible tells us is going to happen, especially when we look at finances, things of that nature. So we're also looking, guys, at Damascus getting repeatedly pummeled by airstrikes. If you guys have been following the Damascus Isaiah 17 prophecy for any time, you know that it's becoming more and more common that it's like every other week now, or every week even sometimes, that it's Damascus is getting hit. So Israel has been pummeling Damascus. We know that Hezbollah is talking about joining the war from Lebanon. We know that Israel told them already that if you join this war, we're going to destroy Damascus. There's escalation on that, and now we're watching Damascus get hit heavier and heavier. So it's concerning if you don't know Jesus, but it's comforting if you do know Jesus, because we know that Damascus will become a ruinous heap. And the reason that we're talking about this is because the title of the video is, the altar, the eclipse, and everything else. And we're kind of at this point, guys, where everything else is becoming a lot. We're having the New York Post articles like, what would happen if DC were attacked by a nuclear bomb? Russia has been, really building up this nuclear war rhetoric. Russia on their, because that Russia with like RT TV and all that kind of thing, they're state-sponsored propaganda, right? The Russians have this deceptive practice wherein they'll give the false pretense of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, but it's actually state-run media. And so now they're running stuff about what happens if we nuke America. And so that is escalating. And there's also earthquakes going around, guys. Papua New Guinea, a massive, massive, massive 7.0 earthquake. And this was at 6:22 local time, right? This is happening, right? And that's a good question. I don't really know about leaving before the sacrifice. All I know is that in the end, that there is going to be this temple. I don't necessarily believe that we'll, leave before then. We could, absolutely. It depends on the Lord's timing. But I don't see anywhere in Scripture that says explicitly that we're going to leave before then. Could be because He's sovereign. He's coming any day. But I don't necessarily see that that's going to be the, the case. So here's another thing too, guys. This Moscow massacre that happened today, ISIS is claiming responsibility for the attack, and yet we're seeing that Russia is trying to blame Ukraine, possibly with the intent of justifying a nuclear bomb. I don't know what's going to happen there, but keep praying. And guys, the thing that's really crazy is that, we're seeing this Russian retaliation into Ukraine on the pretext that, Ukraine somehow was involved with ISIS in this attack. But now ISIS is claiming responsibility. So again, when we look at, for example, wars and rumors of wars, the context there kind of leads us to believe that it's going to be so convoluted in rumors. Because you guys know the rumor mill. You guys ever play the game Telephone, right? Or your kids ever do it? Where, you start saying something. So if I say like blue alligator and there's 30 people in line, the point of the game is that we keep turning back and repeating what we heard. But eventually at the end of it, because things get changed and moved around, all of a sudden it's blue crocodile wearing leather shoes, something crazy like that, right? So the thing of the matter is again, though, we have to have discernment, right? For example, with ISIS, I don't really buy that it's ISIS because ISIS are suicide bombers. They're terrorists. They're jihadists. Why would they be captured alive? Why would they try to flee? I don't really buy it. But again, we're looking at this point in time, guys, where we're watching like governments kind of masquerading as, good meaning, well-meaning people, and yet, they're doing a lot of sketchy things. There's, let's go back to example for the Iraq War. I mean, John McCain had video on his laptop to that point of it looking not real. I mean, he's filming these American hostage videos, in a studio to justify this war, and it's just a bad time. So do I necessarily? Because here's the thing, right? I don't want to be the guy who's like, it's fake. I'm not going to do that because, it's pretty gruesome. But there is, with artificial intelligence and everything else, you really don't know. And when we look at like false signs, lying wonders, and that kind of thing, guys, we're at a point now with AI, they could make anything they want to make, and it would look really real. For example, if they wanted to take my face because they hack into a YouTube and they take, sound bites in video and that kind of thing, they take my face, my isms, all this stuff, right? And then they go and they start a channel that's for the Temple of Satan. If you guys didn't know me, that would look really convincing. And yet they can use this technology now, guys, with artificial intelligence to make that a reality if they really wanted to. The deception is out of control, which is why, guys, in Matthew 24, the first thing Jesus says is what? Do not be deceived. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Do you think God wanted us to be deceived? No, He's telling us not to, so we should not. It's getting crazy. And it's just, we're really at a point, guys, where stuff is coming to a head. It's getting more violent. It's getting more aggressive. In the ISIS footage very well could have been, You know, they really could have been AI. It could have been anything, and that's the whole thing that I keep trying to say is that we don't know. We don't know. Lloyd, my friend, you're not the only one. I've gotten a lot of reports that we lost like 30 subscribers over the last couple of days. They just unsubscribe people for some reason. So please share and like and all that stuff, guys. Help me with liking and commenting because I've been out of the algorithm for a while, and they're gonna try to keep me locked down for a couple of weeks. So please help me with that so they don't. The Houthis, I think it said in one of these articles, they were able to they were able to get a cruise or some type of missile into Israel. Here's one. There was a hyper-vaccinated man who's gotten the 217 times for personal reasons. I don't know. That's a lot. So here's one, guys. In Libya, large unexplained earth cracks appear in Libya, prompting government investigation. This could be any number of things. This could be seismic devices. This could be anything, man. And again, we're at a point where we're literally, we can like chuckle because nothing surprises us anymore. Yeah, it's all still pretty intense. So what do we do with that? You've got phony teachers like this guy, Michael Todd, who's getting a haircut and a shave during a sermon in Oklahoma. In the height of just hubris and grossness and wanting to throw things at this guy because he's making a mockery of our God. 2 Timothy talks about the fact that people are going to be, we have a interesting place in history where we're watching what Paul said would happen, where people are heaping up teachers to tell them what they want to hear, but they're not of him. And that kind of thing is just nuts because this guy fleeces his flock and gets haircuts and beard trims on stage, and people still come back because they don't care. They're not there for Christ. They're there for their own personal gain, and that's a problem. Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, there's so many things going on. There's so many things going on. Here's the thing, too, with Ramadan in Israel this week. It's been really quiet. I'm not going to be one of the, fear mongers or anything. But I think that something is coming. I think this is kind of a calm before the storm. The only time it's quiet during Ramadan is when they're planning something. So that's all I got. I mean, in terms of that with Ramadan and everything. So if you guys have been following the Israeli hostage crisis, Hamas is demanding 800 terrorists in exchange for 40 hostages. That's pretty crazy. I mean, it's gnarly. And so we're seeing that, Israel's trying to limit the use of artillery shells in Gaza because they're getting ready for Hezbollah. We're seeing again, just to reiterate, guys, Damascus being hammered. And I'm going to share from Bubba News on my Telegram, guys, a really helpful map that he did about all the strikes. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about with Damascus, Isaiah 17 talks about the fact that Damascus will no longer be a city. It will be removed from being a city, a ruinous heap. And so looking at Syria as a whole, there's a lot of prophecies about Syria in Jeremiah 49, Isaiah 17, talking about that, these places in Syria are going to be absolutely leveled. So here's something. There's a startup called Figure. If you guys haven't seen this one's pretty intense too. And again, I'm not scared. It's important that we know what's going on. And we're kind of doing like a news blitz here. So if you guys don't know what Chat GPT is, Um, they gave this AI a physical form, so now it's got like a robot housing, and it's communicating with people, and full on dystopian for sure. So we're seeing that Russia is also encroaching militarily on Israel's borders with Syria. We're looking at Ezekiel 38, Gog Magog, kind of becoming more and more close to coming to fruition. This is from Bubba News, guys. Government media in Syria published documents of Russian army patrols in a new military outpost position, which joins other outpost positions near the border with Israel between Deira and Kunitara near the Golan Heights. The increase of Russian troops joins the recent stories of Russian aircraft patrolling the skies of southern Syria near the border with Israel. The Russian movement comes after months of complete absence. This is not good news for Israel, as Russia has chosen sides with Hamas and Gaza, showing its increase of troops in Syria, that Russia backs the Iranian axis of resistance. So all of these countries, all of a sudden, right? And all of these countries that Ezekiel 38 says are going to come against Israel in the last days, they're coming together. Just be, be watchful of that. Share the gospel. And when stuff like this happens, when this stuff happens, use it to share the gospel and tell people, look, if the Bible wasn't true, why did it predict these things? Now these things are coming to fruition. If you guys don't know, Ben Gvir is trying to get Jews on the last 10 days of Ramadan to visit Temple Mount. He's poking the bear and he knows it. First of Nissan, guys, is going to be Monday, April 8th, and it ends at nightfall, Tuesday, April 9th. So again, kind of coinciding with that eclipse. And there are, let me just kind of tangent here real quick. There are a lot of people who look at this eclipse and they just, men that I respect, who will just go out of their way to thrash people like us who are excited to see a sign in the heaven as Christ warned us. And it's extremely disheartening to see, instead of an opportunity to share the gospel, men who are good teachers, by the way, knowledgeable in the word, mock believers who are excited about Jesus coming back. I've got one in particular who I would, I'm close to that I won't name, but that was extremely disappointing in my personal circle. And let them laugh. But you know what? When Jesus says, look out for signs in the heavens, we'll look out for signs in the heavens, especially when this type of thing doesn't happen a lot. It's coinciding with everything else. And I think it's really just, frankly, gross. It's gross that teachers go out of their way to belittle those who are excited about the return of Christ. It's gross. Or men who are so prideful that they'll hold on to their own views that are not scripturally correct and will bash and badmouth and slander other people for having biblical views on the end times. It's gross. And I'm calling it out. It's nasty. Men that were formerly in my circle, man, that between other things that we have just distanced ourselves from, it sucks. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but it's a really disappointing to see men and teachers that you respect just decide, no, you know what, instead of encouraging the body and getting excited about Jesus coming back, what if I actively mock them? And here's the thing, do we worship signs? No, we worship Christ, but the signs point us to his coming, and we can be excited about that. And I don't think that anyone is going to know the day or the hour because Christ said we're not going to, but he did tell us to watch so that we wouldn't be caught off guard, and that's exactly what we're doing. But yeah, I had a couple of men in my circle who are no longer, and it's a bummer. So if you guys are ever worried about, feeling alone, that kind of thing, it happens. It happens. And the sad part about it is that, these men who know the word so well, they're becoming what they've been teaching for years. Scoffers. And the thing about it is that all these people will, in theory tell you, oh yeah, it's close. But then you're like, hey, this close. And all of a sudden you're a fringe, whatever you want to call it. Let no one shame you for watching for the return of our King. Ever. I don't care who they are. I don't care where they went to school. I don't care if they pastored a church for 40 years. You don't ever let them mock you for watching out for Christ. And I'll just say this too, and it's pointed, but it's true. The only people that Jesus was super aggressive with, Pharisees, had a lot of knowledge, and they wanted to make their own views their prominent driving factor and not what God said. They wanted Messiah to be this conquering king who would break the shackles of the Roman occupation. And when they saw suffering Jesus, they killed him. And I would just issue a public challenge and warning that if we as believers cannot challenge our own beliefs, use the evidence of the scriptures and come to the same conclusion, it's time to let go of those beliefs. If our views as believers